Hey everybody, I'm Jiles, and this is JDM World. Today we've got episode 4 of Jiles Journey for you, and in this episode we're going to figure out how to install this Starke Sound A7 amplifier into this AV cabinet. Sounds easy, but it's going to be a little harder than we expected. At the end of the video, we're going to do a little before and after and compare what it's like to live in a world of integrated amplification, meaning everything sitting inside of my Denon AVR as compared to having 7 channels of amplification external. Now, this is the first step on moving to completely separates, meaning that my AV, all of my processing lives in a unit, a pre-pro, and all the amplification is completely outside of it in their own separate unit. So let's take a look and see how it goes right after the break. The first step in installing the Starke Sound A7 amplifier is getting the cabinet ready. In my theater, the cabinet is stuck back in a little nook, so it's always kind of like doing yoga to get this out, but after a little bit of effort, I can get this in a position where we can actually do some work on it, get access to the front and back. But let's kick this off with a bit of a exploration of what's in our cabinet today. Here at the bottom of the cabinet is where we're going to mount 2 of these Starke Sound A7 amplifiers. And what I've discovered is that my shelf that I had here, right, which came pre-configured in the cabinet, well, it's too narrow. This amp is wider than the opening in the front of the shelf, since, as you can see, it's got the inside walls on the shelf. So what I've done is I've ordered a shelf that fits in, and it's just a flat piece extending back, and you'll see it as I install it, that the amplifier can simply rest on. So there are no walls that it'll slide in between. It's just a flat shelf that connects to the 4 posts. So the idea is that we're going to have amplifier, and then AVR. So let's swing around here, and this is the Denon. You can't really see it that well, but the Denon that I've already pulled out. It had been on that shelf at the bottom, but I pulled it out to make space and to really make enough room. So we'll have amp, and then Denon. We're gonna have to pull out these other pieces. Now, these are PDUs, and this is for my 20 amp power strip. And then above that, I've got the Behringer that's powering my 2 full Martys. And above that is a Crown XLS 1502 that had been powering my left and right and front. That will be retasked later to power a 21-inch Devastator coming from GSG Audio, which is gonna be super cool. However, UPS Freight has lost the 300-pound pallet, and who knows where it is right now. Fun, but true story. So what we're going to do next is go ahead and slam in this shelf at the bottom and see how that goes. So what we have here is a nav point fixed rack vented server shelf. It's 1U and designed for a 19-inch AV cabinet. Now, it's slightly deeper than my cabinet is, but I don't run a back door anyway because that's hidden and pushed against the back wall. So it works out well for me. They have narrower or shorter ones available if that works better for you. But for me, this works out quite well. Now, the way that this mounts is that it will attach to all 4 posts, and it has these 4 sliding rails on the side, so you can adjust it to the depth of your front and rear posts. And this also allows you to bolt them in to all 4 posts so that it'll be able to support weight in the front and back. This amplifier is about 140 pounds, so I would not want just the front or rear rails, just one set of rails to be supporting the full weight of this. Having the weight distributed around all 4 posts using a flat shelf like this is beneficial in this situation. Now, this shelf also it takes up 1 full U, and rather than having walls on the side or anything like that and taking up some of the interior space between the rails, the entire surface area is open, and this amp takes all of the space between the 2 rails to actually fit into the cabinet. So you have to have this type of shelf to mount the A7 amplifier. Mounting this amplifier is absolutely a 2-person job, and this is just putting it in on the lowest shelf possible. If you have multiples of these and have to move them up high at all, you might need 3 people. I don't know. They're very, very heavy. and it's difficult to move these around. Now, that's a testament to the build quality, because these things are bulletproof, but you'll need a friend to help get this in. And just as a reminder, this is a 7-channel amplifier. It's class H, so it starts out as class A, and then under load it'll move to class AB. So it's not the most efficient, but it has the best sound. Now let's take a minute to follow along as I reposition all of the components in the rack. At this point, I have 3 different sources that I use on a regular basis. The Panasonic Blu-ray player, I use Hios inside of the Denon AVR itself, and I have an NVIDIA Shield that lets me stream just about anything that I could imagine. Remote control responsibilities are handled by a Logitech Harmony Companion. You'll notice that I don't have quite enough blanking panels to make everything look perfect, but that will be solved as I add in that second A7 amplifier in the future. I've left some space at the top of the rack to add in another source component, or really a set of components. So I'm looking to get a dedicated external streamer for music, primarily for 2-channel use, and an external DAC, or digital to audio converter, for that as well. So this is really part of the philosophy of using this as both a multi-channel home theater for movies and a 2-channel listening environment. You probably noticed that I have a mini DSP 2x4 HD. The purpose of that device is for subwoofer management. It allows me to time align and apply EQ to the subwoofers independent of the other speakers. Now let's take a look at the backside after I've finished the primary cabling. As you can see, I've used RCA cables instead of balanced or XLR cables because my Denon AVR only supports RCAs. In the future, I plan to upgrade to XLR cables when I have a dedicated preamp. I've connected a set of RCAs from the Panasonic to the AVR for CD listening, and I have an extra set of RCAs thrown across the top for that future streamer. For fun, I ran Odyssey before I replaced the amplifier, and then I ran it again afterwards. So on the left, you're seeing the Denon powering everything except for the front left and right, and then the Crown 1502 powering the front left and right. Then on the right hand side, this is after I've introduced the A7 into the environment. So the A7 is powering all the speakers on the ground, and the Denon is powering the 4 Atmos speakers in the ceiling. You can see that in the before image on the left, that the AVR was really having to work to balance that front left and right speaker with the rest of the speakers that were being powered by the Denon. It had to add a little gain to the left and right, and then really turn down everything else. With the A7 in place, everything is a lot more consistent from a level set point of view. I've spent a few hours listening to the A7 now in my environment, and here are a few thoughts. So the amplifier has no problems pushing my environment to reference levels, and my speakers have about a 92 decibel sensitivity. I really enjoy having 7 channels in the same chassis, and I look forward to being able to use XLR cables when I replace my AVR. The sound of my system now has some additional consistency across the front soundstage that I didn't have before, as that I was mixing power from the Crown XLS and the Denon amplification. While 2-channel listening, the amplifier pushes my left and right speakers to authoritative levels. Transients are handled really well. The speakers can go from very quiet to really loud, and there's no apparent strain at all. There's just tons of horsepower waiting to be tapped with this amplifier. What I like about this one the most really is the sound. The amp is very musical. It doesn't have that industrial feel at all. And for me, this amp really makes music sound like what I'd always hoped music could sound like. And that, my friends, is the end of the video. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today as I've shown you how I've really rebuilt my rack and implemented this Starke Sound A7 amplifier into my environment. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and drop some comments below as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Starke Sound A7 amplifier.